there! Welcome back to ABnC Kids. Today, we'll teach you the ABnCs of U.S. government, Bureaucracy Edition.
ABnC Kids! Ding!
You've likely heard of the legislative, judicial, and executive branches, but have you heard of the bureaucracy? The bureaucracy works under the executive, but it functions like a secret fourth branch of government that works to implement the laws Congress passes under the supervision of the executive. The bureaucracy is comprised of departments, agencies, commissions, and government corporations, all of which serve different purposes within the executive branch. Departments cover broad areas of policy and are run by Cabinet Secretary. There are 15 departments, each of which specialize in a different area. Let's talk about a few of them. The Department of Homeland Security keeps the country safe by protecting against threats like terrorism, managing border security, and responding to natural disasters. The Department of Transportation oversees the nation's roads, trains, planes, and public transit to make sure people and goods can travel safely and efficiently. The Department of Veterans Affairs provides health care, benefits, and support to military veterans and their families. The Department of Education helps improve schools, supports students and teachers, and ensures access to quality education for everyone. Others include the Department of Agriculture, Commerce, Health, and Human Services. Agencies are formed and funded by Congress to address problems requiring specialized expertise by creating and enforcing rules and regulations. Agencies can be either executive or independent. Executive agencies work under a department, while independent agencies are not directly controlled by a cabinet secretary and have somewhat more autonomy. One example of an executive agency is the FBI, which functions within the Department of Justice. Some independent agencies include the Environmental Protection Agency, which protects the environment by reducing pollution and making sure we have clean air, water, and land. Commissions are also independent, and they regulate specific industries and activities. Unlike departments and agencies, they are typically run by a group of commissioners rather than a single leader, and are bipartisan to prevent politics from intervening. But like agencies, they have somewhat legislative power in that they create rules, and somewhat judicial power in that they enforce regulations and resolve disputes. The Federal Elections Commission makes sure elections are fair by enforcing rules regarding campaign funding and political advertising. The Security Exchange Commission protects investors by regulating the stock market and making sure companies are honest about their finances. Government corporations are organizations that are run like businesses but are owned by the government. They provide services that could be handled by private businesses but aren't because they are widely seen as essential to the public interest. While they are designed to bring in revenue, they are not intended to make a profit. Can you think of any services along these lines? One that you might know is the U.S. Postal Service, which delivers mail all across the country. Because these sections of the bureaucracy are funded by and work in response to the wishes of Congress, they regularly testify before congressional committees to explain budgets, policies, and regulatory actions. This system creates iron triangles, where bureaucratic entities work together with congressional committees and interest groups to implement policy. Bureaucracy needs funding from Congress, Congress needs support from interest groups, and interest groups need implementation from the bureaucracy, resulting in a tight three-way alliance. Similarly to iron triangles, issue networks are alliances built to encourage action in a specific area, but they are broader and more temporary than iron triangles, in that the groups involved include bureaucratic entities, stakeholders, lawmakers, advocacy groups, academics, and the media. These networks often form around specific problems or crises and are short-lasting. The civil service refers to all of the non-elected government employees working within the bureaucracy. This includes the departments, agencies, and commissions. Because they are not elected by the president, their terms are not determined by which political party is in power, and this creates a stable foundation for a constantly functioning government, even during political transitions. This also ensures that the universal and essential roles filled by the bureaucracy, including health, safety, and education, are not being determined by politics. Members of the civil service are hired based on merit, such as through competitive exams or specialization, to encourage a professional environment out of the political eye. Civil servants are able to carry out technical and administrative tasks that political officials don't have the time or expertise to manage. Just like the rest of federal government, the bureaucracy can only function with a set of checks and balances. Both Congress and the President keep the bureaucracy accountable in different ways. One of the key roles of Congress is to oversee the executive branch and its implementation of policy. This involves regularly reviewing bureaucratic agencies to make sure they're following the law and working efficiently, and investigating if an issue arises. For example, a congressional committee might hold hearings to question agency leaders about their actions or spending. Congress also controls funding for bureaucratic agencies and can reduce or withhold its budget to encourage change. Congressional oversight allows the legislature to ensure that the bureaucracy is staying aligned with the laws that Congress creates. The president sets the overall goals for his administration, and the bureaucratic agencies are expected to work towards those goals. The president's ideology and authority may affect how agencies operate. To ensure agencies are doing their jobs and using funds correctly, the executive branch monitors their compliance with rules and regulations. Unfortunately, this can slow down policy implementation if disagreements arise, but the president is able to ensure that, while the bureaucracy is largely out of the hands of democracy, it is still responsive to the needs of the public. The three branches of government each play a role in holding the bureaucracy accountable, but their competing interests can make this a balancing act. Congress, the president, and the courts all use their formal and informal powers to ensure that the bureaucratic agencies follow the law and don't overreach. Congress holds hearings, investigates agencies, and controls funding, using its power of the purse to keep agencies in check. The president uses their authority to direct agencies and appoint leaders who align with the administration's goals. And the federal courts can step in if an agency's actions are challenged, ensuring that they comply with the law. But tensions can arise when the branches disagree about how the bureaucracy should operate. If Congress passes laws requiring an agency to focus on a specific issue, but the president's administration has different priorities, they might direct the agency to focus on something else. If the courts rule that an agency's actions overstep its authority or violate the Constitution, both Congress and the president will have to adjust their plans. These competing priorities can slow down the decision-making process or create confusion about an agency's role, making it harder for the bureaucracy to function effectively. Because each branch has its own responsibilities, there are multiple access points where stakeholders, interest groups, or advocacy organizations can influence decisions. Congress can hold hearings, the president can meet with advisors, and the courts can rule on whether a policy is constitutional. While this ensures that no single branch has too much power, it makes national policymaking slower and more complex as each branch tries to balance their federal authority. The bureaucracy is made up of a complex system of departments, agencies, commissions, and government corporations working together to implement laws and serve the public good. While it has to navigate the influence of the president, Congress, courts, and interest groups, its broad isolation from the political eye gives it the stability it needs to carry out the functions that form the basis of our everyday life. From the mail we receive, to the food we eat, to the environment that we live in. Thank you for coming along on this journey. We hope you know more about the bureaucracy now, and stay tuned for our final episode of U.S. Government, talking about the judiciary.